She put me in a cage overnight like it was routine, like I was just another box to check before the end of her shift, and she stood there the next morning holding a cup of coffee, smiling at me through steel bars, absolutely certain she had won. What she couldn't see yet, what hadn't even crossed her mind, was that by the time the sun came up, she'd be standing in a courtroom staring straight at the person who runs it. And the system she thought she controlled, the system she leaned on like a weapon, yeah, that system was me. Before I get into the details, do me one favor. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Because the more I tell this story, the more I realize this kind of thing isn't local, it travels, and I want to see just how far. That night started like nothing special at all. It was a Thursday late close to midnight, and I was driving home on that quiet stretch of road that connects the city to the suburbs, the kind with big trees, no streetlights, and houses set so far back you can barely see them. I'd driven it so many times I could do it half asleep, which honestly I kind of was. I'd been mentoring some young lawyers, kids still burning with that nervous energy you get before the bar exam, and I was tired in that deep, heavy way you get after listening to other people's problems all week. All I wanted was to get home, loosen my tie, maybe put on some music, let my brain stop working for a minute. You know what I mean? The first thing that felt off wasn't sirens or flashing lights, it was the cruiser behind me. It pulled out from a side street, way back, not close, not far, just stayed there. Didn't pass, didn't fall back, just stayed. And look, I wasn't speeding. Everything on my car was legal lights, working registration current, no reason for anyone to care. But my body noticed anyway. That old familiar tightening in the chest, the mental checklist kicking in without asking permission. Because I've been a black man in this country my whole life, and long before I ever wore a robe or argued a case, I learned how to survive a traffic stop. Drive perfectly. Signal early. Signal long. Hands visible. No sudden moves. Don't reach for anything until you're told. Make yourself as boring and predictable as possible, even though deep down you know sometimes that doesn't matter. When I signaled to turn onto the road that leads to my neighborhood, the cruiser signaled too. Half a mile later, the red and blue lights came on. No siren, just those lights filling the car, washing out the darkness, making your heart jump even when you expect it. I pulled over slowly, put the car in park, turned on the dome light, rolled down all four windows, both hands on the wheel, fingers spread like I was posing for a picture called Non-Threatening Driver. The spotlight hit my back window so hard the mirror was useless. Two officers stepped out. One went to the passenger side. One came to mine. The one at my door was a woman. Blonde hair pulled back tight, posture, sharp eyes focused in a way that didn't feel calm or professional. It felt like she'd already decided who I was before she even spoke. She stopped just behind my door, so I had to turn my head to see her, a small thing, but control lives in small things. "License and registration," she said. No greeting, no tone of courtesy, just a command. "Yes, ma'am," I said, steady. "My wallet's in my jacket pocket, registration's in the glove box. May I reach for them?" She didn't answer right away. She just scanned the inside of my car. It was clean, new, or something I'd bought recently to mark a personal milestone, not flashy, just something I'd earned. On the passenger seat was my briefcase and a folded newspaper. That was it. Her eyes lingered on my suit, my watch, the briefcase, like the pieces didn't fit whatever picture she'd already drawn in her head. "Go ahead," she said, clipped. I moved slow, exaggerated slow. Wallet out, set on the dash. Glove box open, registration and insurance out, held between two fingers. She took them and shined her flashlight directly in my eyes, then down at my license, then back at my face over and over, like she was waiting for something to change. She read my name out loud, and the way she said it made it sound unfamiliar, like it didn't belong where it was. "Where you headed tonight?" she asked, using my first name like we were old friends, which we were not. "I'm heading home," I said. "My house is just up the road." "Your house?" she repeated, and disbelief dripped off the words. "You live around here?" "Yes," I said, naming the street. She smirked small and tight, like she'd caught me in a lie. Then her flashlight drifted across the dashboard again. "Nice car," she said. "You come into some money tonight." There it was, the whole stop laid bare in one sentence, the assumption, the accusation, all of it. And right then I made a decision that probably sounds strange. I didn't tell her who I was. I had ID in my wallet that would have ended the entire interaction in seconds. I could have said one sentence and been on my way. But I wanted to see how far she'd go when she thought I was just another guy she could push around. My father used to tell me, you can build a house of stone, but to some people you'll always be standing in a field. He believed in justice and education, but he also understood how fragile respect can be when prejudice gets involved. Sitting there under that spotlight, his words echoed loud. She walked back to her cruiser with my documents. I watched her talk to her partner, a younger guy, shoulders tense, nodding, shaking his head like he wasn't sure. Minutes passed. 5, 10. In a normal world, that's where it ends. But I could feel it. She wasn't done. Letting it go would mean admitting she was wrong, and people like her don't do that. They double down. When she came back, her whole demeanor had changed. No smirk, no fake casualness, just cold authority. Step out of the vehicle. May I ask why I said, "We've got a report of a vehicle matching this description tied to burglaries in the area," she replied. The lie was thin, sloppy. Burglaries in that neighborhood would have been all over every message board, every group chat. And if it were real, this stop would look very different. I understand, I said, my voice colder now, more professional. But I haven't been involved in anything like that. That's not for you to decide, she snapped. Step out. Hands where I can see them. I stepped out. Slow hands up. The night air was cool, crickets loud. She turned me around, had me put my hands on the roof, patted me down harder than necessary, like she was searching for something she'd already convinced herself existed. She found nothing. Wallet, keys, phone. Her partner finally spoke. "Ma'am, his record's clean. Car's registered to him at that address. I think we're good." She didn't even look at him. "Hands behind your back," she said to me. I turned my head slightly. "Am I being arrested?" "You're being detained for questioning related to a felony investigation." "On what grounds?" I asked. "You need reasonable suspicion to detain me and probable cause to arrest me. You have neither." That's when her face hardened. That's when it stopped being about the law and started being about her ego. "Probable cause is you're being evasive and uncooperative." She said words so flimsy they were almost insulting. Her partner tried again, quietly suggesting they let me go. She snapped at him to stay out of it. The cuffs were cold and tight. She leaned in close enough that I could smell coffee on her breath. "You think you're smart," she whispered. "We'll see how smart you are after a night in a cell." The back of the cruiser is designed to make you feel small. Hard plastic, no handles, a cage between you and the front seat. You're not a person back there, you're cargo. Her partner drove in silence. She glanced back at me in the mirror with that look of satisfaction, like she'd just proven something to herself. At the station, everything moved fast and slow at the same time. Bright lights, disinfectant smells, stale coffee. They brought me through the back entrance. A detective I recognized from court looked up confused, like his brain couldn't process what he was seeing. He started to stand, but she pulled me along before he could say anything. At booking the desk, Sergeant listened to her story and raised an eyebrow. He looked at the bolo, looked at me. The description didn't match at all. She insisted anyway. "Witness could have been mistaken," she said. He was giving me attitude. The sergeant sighed, the sound of a man choosing the path of least resistance. They took my belt, my tie, my shoelaces, stripped away the little pieces of identity. Then the sergeant pulled out my other ID, the one I hadn't shown. His eyes widened when he read it. He looked at me, then at her back as she filled out paperwork. That was the moment. He could have stopped everything. I held his gaze and said nothing. After a long pause, he dropped it into the property bag and sealed it like he'd never seen it. That quiet choice, that decision to look away, hurt almost more than her behavior. The cell was concrete and steel, buzzing fluorescent light, overhead thin mattress on a metal slab. The door slammed shut and the bolt slid home, and suddenly the reality of it all hit me. I replayed every second in my head, building the case, seeing the violations stack up. But after a while, the anger faded into exhaustion, the kind that sits on your chest. Being calm all the time, being perfect, it's exhausting. Sometime after 3 in the morning, a young jailer took the cuffs off my wrists, avoiding eye contact. And then a little later, I heard footsteps. She came back. Standing at the bars with a cup of coffee, smiling like this was the highlight of her shift. "Not so comfortable now, huh?" she said. "Your suit can't help you in here. Tomorrow they'll set your bail so high you'll never see daylight. We're going to connect you to everything." She waited for me to react, to beg, to yell. I didn't. I just looked at her. And in that moment, I saw it. This wasn't about justice. It was about control, about her needing to feel powerful. Finally, she scoffed and walked away, annoyed that I wouldn't play my part. Morning in jail doesn't feel like morning. It's noise lights snapping on doors opening. They chained us together for transport, wrist to waist, ankle to ankle, and walked us through the underground tunnel to the courthouse. I'd walked that tunnel before, freely. That day, the chains made every step loud. In the courthouse basement, an older bailiff saw me and froze. His mouth opened. No sound came out. He whispered my name, recognition flooding his face. I gave him a tiny nod like, "Yeah, it's me. Keep it together." They brought us into the arraignment courtroom. And there she was, standing near the prosecutor's table, looking proud. Her partner stood behind her pale eyes on the floor. They sat us in the jury box. The clerk looked up, recognized me, and went still. Whispers spread among the staff, that quiet ripple of something being very wrong. Then the judge walked in, sat down, and scanned the room like he always does, until his eyes landed on me. He leaned forward, squinted, took off his glasses. The room went dead silent. He looked down at the file, then back at me, disbelief turning into anger. He said my name softly, like he couldn't believe it. And that's when she turned and realized what was happening. The smirk vanished. Her face went pale. She finally understood who she'd arrested. The judge ordered me unchained immediately. Then he called her to the bench and went through her report line by line, exposing every contradiction. When he asked if I wanted to speak, I stood and told the truth calmly, clearly, about the stop, the lies, the taunting, the night in the cell. I asked that the charges be dismissed with prejudice. The gavel came down hard. Dismissed. Then he ordered both officers to report to the chief immediately. Administrative leave. Investigation. Afterward, apologies poured in, calls were made, promises were offered, and I listened, but part of me felt hollow because I knew the truth. This only moves so fast because of who I am. If I were anyone else, I might still be in that cell. She eventually lost her job quietly. Paperwork. A press release. Other complaints surfaced once people realized they might finally be heard. And I went back to work changed. I listen differently now. I see the fear and exhaustion in people's eyes more clearly. So here's what I want to ask you. Should I have ended it early by revealing who I was, or was it worth letting it play